Hey everybody, this is Dark Side Elite. I finally getting down to doing this video. It's gonna be my spoiler review for this movie right here, Far From Home. I've watched it. I've watched it before, and again, I want to emphasize this. I talked about this in my non-spoiler review that I did not want to go in this movie not liking it. It's Spider-Man. I've loved Spider-Man since I was little and I want to see how Tom Holland does his character. I wanted to see how they're going to challenge his character and how they're going to push his character. And this movie is a good Spider-Man movie, but it's a terrible comic book movie because they kind of again throw their whole continuity right out the window, and they throw a little bit of the continuity of Spider-Man out the window too. Um, we get to we get to the movie. Basically, Peter is with his Aunt May, and she's basically his manager for some reason. Like she's taking care of him, and they're exposing themselves to the mass audience, and they're basically making Spider-Man more mainstream. I don't have a big problem with that. I have a small problem with it, but I don't have a big problem with it. Um, my only problem with it is that May should be more of a parent than the type of manager that she is in this movie. The greatest thing about Aunt May is she worries a lot about Peter because Peter is the last of the Parkers. This is Ben's nephew. She's not blood related to Peter, and she always wants to be that mom figure to him. Now I personally do not know their relationship very much. And people could say, well, I do. And I go, okay, then what's their relationship? Well, she's his aunt. Well, that doesn't explain anything because we never saw them being very close. I mean, in Homecoming, there was a little bit more, but in this one, it depends on how the story is being served. Now, in the originals with Sam Raimi, heck, even in Mark Webb's version, they showed a lot of relationship building with Peter Parker and Aunt May. I loved it in Sam Raimi's version, and I also do liked it in Mark Webb's version because Peter, the way Peter's constructed is he's almost like Bruce Wayne. Whenever Bruce starts to feel the world on his shoulders, who does he go to? He goes to Alfred. So who does Peter Parker go to other than Mary Jane? You know, he's not with Mary Jane Watson right now. This is a completely different universe. But he goes to Aunt May. He goes to his Aunt May because she is older than him. She has a lot of worldly experience, and also she is his parental figure. So I have a not a huge problem. I have a little bit of a problem with the relationship between Peter Parker and Aunt May. Now, then they show that Peter is getting a free European trip, and that this was that he gets go to Europe, and him and some of classmates are gonna go, and so basically he kind of leaves New York City to go to Europe, and he invites all of his friends, and they get to go. He talks to Ned about that he's going to finally tell Mary Jane, MJ, not Mary Jane, MJ, talk to Michelle, and they start their relationship because he says he likes her. Ned starts to go, well, I mean, if you're gonna start dating her, I mean, what's gonna happen with us? And he says, nope, we're still friends, and that whole teenage angst, and that's fine. For me, I am an older individual. It's fine. To me, it feels like it's a little cringe. Like, hey, you know what? They're buddies. It's one of those names. It's one of those things. B's before H's, and I don't want to say the name. I don't want to get people on top of it. But so there should not be any calamity between their relationship, between Ned and Peter's relationship. They're friends. They've been friends for a very long time. Ned was the first one to really greet Peter after the whole incident that everyone started popping back, and so there should be no like, hey, or if you're dating, then I'm gonna feel like a third wheel type of nonsense. That should not be their relationship. That should not be how they should be talking to each other. It should be more in the fact that Ned should be like, hey, you know what, go have fun. I hope the two of you are together. Hope you're great with it. And then with the eventuality of what happened with Ned, it's like, well, everything worked out. I mean, so I don't know why they kind of threw that line in there. It makes no sense. It kind of, it felt like that. It felt like to me, it felt kind of weird. Um, However, they finally get to Europe, and that's when Peter gets this notion that he has to, that he gets talked to by Happy Hogan, and he says that you've been ditching Nick Fury's phone calls this whole time. And he says, well, I'm very busy. He doesn't, and also I think it's more in the fact they're trying to show that he doesn't want to be part of the Avengers. He wants to be his own superhero. Well, that's cool and all, but if you're your own superhero, you should not be having Tony Stark stuff. That's how I see it. If he wants to be his own superhero, he needs to have his own stuff. He needs to construct his own stuff. And so we kind of get to the introduction between, we get Nick Fury talking to him about that, there's a crisis going on, and we're going to need Spider-Man. He says, well, why don't you talk to these people? He goes, they're busy, they're not here. And a lot of them are and the Avengers right now is very fractured. So for Nick Fury's position, he needs to try to construct a brand new Avengers, and he wants to start with Spider-Man. He wants to start with this character because he knows through Tony Stark's notes that Peter is very brilliant, and also his powers are so insane that when he gets older, he's going to become a much more phenomenal hero. So there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. He'll be a great Avenger. However, we get introduced to Quentin Beck. And Quentin Beck says that he's from a different universe, and he tells this story about that these elementals from his universe, they destroyed his planet. They all came together and they completely destroyed his planet, and they came through this weird wormhole, and now they're here. And he says, and then Peter, in a brilliance, he talks about the physics of interdimensional travel, and also the explanation of the multiverse itself, and how much that this is going to explain, and this and this and this. And I'm like, that's Peter Parker. That's the Peter Parker that I want to see. The geeky Peter Parker that throws out so much science knowledge, it makes you just go, what the heck? That's Peter Parker to me. And one of the things that I felt that they did very, very well was they really showed that Peter Parker is quite possibly as brilliant as he's supposed to be. They start building the relationship with Quentin and Peter, and we get some great fight sequences with Mysterio using his powers, and Peter, using his abilities and being in awe over how powerful Mysterio really is. Now, we get a little bit more teen angst, and we get introduced to this new fellow that Michelle is talking to, and he knows that Peter likes Michelle, but he's trying to be that roadblock. And to me, this character is what should have been perfect for Flash Thompson. He's dashing. He's actually very handsome. He's tall. He has that type of bully mentality that I felt that it would have been perfect for his character. And a lot better than how they constructed Flash for this universe. It would have been cool, and I would have liked his character a little bit more. But they did a little bit more teen angst with Peter meeting this woman inside of a hut, inside of a building. And when she tells him to strip and get into his clothing, he starts doing it, and then the guy walks in and takes a picture of it, and he says, well, I'm going to go ahead and tell MJ, as long as you leave her alone and let me have a chance at her. You had your chance. Let me have a chance. I'm like, this makes no sense. Again, to me, that the way they're constructing this, it makes no sense, because Peter and Michelle never really talked, and then on top of that, Michelle got dusted like all the other kids. So, and Peter got dusted. So it wasn't like they had an opportunity of being able to go out on a date. So they did a lot more teen angst, and Peter gets introduced to these glasses that was given to him by Tony Stark, and it says that whenever whenever you need help, just put these on, and you'll get the confidence that you need. And he puts the glasses on, and he realizes that these hook up to all the Stark towers and Stark satellite systems that Stark has. So he's interconnected to everything that Tony Stark has. And to me, I felt that was way too much power for Peter to have. That's way too much power. And it's one of the things that I wish that they kind of instituted into Peter, that he should understand that with great power comes great responsibility. And they never really showed that. They never really gave you a hint of that. This to me, that this Peter is a happy-go-lucky kid that just got these powers, and he's trying to figure out how to be a superhero. Again, like I said, to me, that's not Peter Parker. Peter Parker has always been endowed with responsibilities, and he understands the difference with responsibilities and being an adult, because that was instilled to him by Benjamin Parker, his uncle. And I felt that those were the things that was missing. However, the way that they're doing this character and the way they're doing this version of Peter, that Uncle Ben probably wasn't that influential in his life, and that he's now being influenced by all the other superheroes around. And to me, I feel that's a huge disservice to Spider-Man's character, because that's not his character. He's always had responsibilities, because he understands that his powers, he has to be responsible with them. Those are the reasons why his uncle passed away, and why his uncle passed away, and what happened to Gwen Stacy, and he doesn't want anything like that to ever happen to anybody that he loves. So he already has that instilled in him about responsibility. So you're now having to create a brand new level of responsibility with him, and we all have to see that in his growth from the first movie to now. And I feel that right now it makes no sense, because it means that you're giving us a superhero that has zero levels of understanding and responsibility, and you're giving him all these technologies and all this advancements, and he has no recollection, he has no understanding that with all of his powers that he has, that he can kill somebody. He can lift a car off of somebody and throw it somewhere, and all of a sudden it ends up in a wall. And I feel that those are the things that that Peter Parker should know before he was Spider-Man. Those were the tricks of the trade that he learned when he was growing up. Now, again, he is growing up in this movie, and he's still 16 years old, and that's fine. But I still feel that they should have given him some level of responsibility. He should understand that already before he got his powers. So when he got these new technologies, he should already go, okay, no, this is not, I shouldn't have this. Or, no, I need to be on my own way. But he just took it because it is Tony Stark's stuff, and he feels that it's his responsibility to have it because Tony gave it to him. Then we get more with Quentin Beck, and we get this great fight sequence and this new armor, this new suit that he gets, and it's built off of it's constructed off of the noir Spider-Man suit that he got in the comic books from the noir Spider-Man. And it looks good, it looks really cool, and I like how they did it. However, it made no sense to his character. It made no sense to the situation. He could just wore his regular Spider-Man costume, or he could have wore a black version of the same suit that he always wore. That would have made perfectly fine. Also, the suit could have just changed the color scheme, the pigmentations of the red and make it more dark. I mean, there's no conceivable reason why he had to get a brand new suit. That makes no sense to me. However, it served its purpose, and it was fine. Then we get to the twist. And the twist is, you come to find out that Quentin Beck was actually lying about the whole thing, and this was all a gigantic stunt to discredit Tony Stark, because Tony Stark took technology from him, his holographic technology, retrofitted it into being a medical clinical device to help people with depression. And we saw this technology in Civil War, in the first scenes of in the scenes with Civil War, with him talking about his last moments with his mom and dad before he left, and that great um, de-aging technology they did. That's what this technology was. Basically, Tony took the technology, bought it. He worked for Tony. He constructed it, and basically Tony took the technology and retrofitted it to his, and then basically shelved it because he felt that it wasn't suitable. So instead of basically letting Quentin take the technology and advancing it and become and trying to make money off of it, Tony just basically shelved it onto the shelf and basically told him that nope, you can't take the technology. It belongs to Stark. It belongs to Stark Industries. It's mine. And he fired him. So Quentin decided, okay, well, I'm done. So he decides to basically make this huge revenge plot, and he brought in every single person that Tony has ever screwed, and we met the individual back from the first Iron Man that couldn't recreate the same technology that Tony could, and he got yelled at by Obadiah Stane. Now again, I don't know this individual. I don't know how much he's going to serve further. I think that he's going to be the one that's going to help recreate the Sinister Six, and utilizing all of Tony Stark's technology and try to create the Sinister Six. That's my headcanon. But I think this guy's going to serve a much, much bigger purpose, because this guy's been around since the first movie, since the first Iron Man movie. So it seems to me that he's going to serve a much bigger purpose if they're going to bring him back. They didn't recast him. They brought him back. So that tells to me that he's going to serve a much bigger purpose. Now, later we find out that Peter gave him those glasses that interconnected him to all of Tony's equipment, because he felt that Quentin Beck was the right person to serve, and he felt that Quentin is just as good and just as intelligent as Tony Stark, so he could be able to serve a much bigger purpose than Peter would. So, Quentin took the technology, and he basically took all of Tony Stark's equipment and used it against everybody. Now, we come to find out that Michelle knows that Peter is Spider-Man, and he, of course, he denies it until they stumble upon technology that Michelle took, and it shows the holographic projection of Mysterio taking on the Elemental. Now, the technology that Quentin created is supposed to be basic holographic projection. However, with the new technologies that he added, plus with the scientists that I mentioned earlier, they were able to make it where it was hard-like constructed. So it basically was real, because it caused a lot of devastation, a lot of damage. So it made it virtually real for everybody. Now, Michelle and Peter, they saw this holographic projection, and that's when he reveals to her, yes, I'm Spider-Man. And she's like, what? Why are you telling me this? He goes, because you're going to be in danger and you need to know. Okay, I'm like, really? He just basically outs his whole identity to her like it's nothing? Why? It seems like they're trying to rush job, like he needs these people to know his secret identity. It's perfectly fine, blah, 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 blah. Let's just move forward. And I'm like, that, again, that serves no purpose to Peter's character. If he's going to flamboyantly tell people who he is, then what's the purpose of having a secret identity? Just go out there without his mask. Why is he wearing a mask? Just don't wear a mask. That makes no sense. So, and this comes to massive fruition later in the special credit scene. So they go back and and that's when Quentin Beck finds out that they know, and he creates this huge thing to basically kill Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and he goes through all these great sequences, and I really liked it because that's Mysterio. Mysterio completely screwed over his whole mindset. He messed him up mentally, emotionally, and he was going to kill him physically. And I feel that was a great service to his character. That was a great service to Peter as a whole, that they did that very, very well. Because Mysterio on a whole, he does that. He's a master manipulator. He also is a special effects artist. So he understands visual effects. He understands CGI, computer graphics images. He understands a lot to basically fool the mind, so it actually will fall. He can manipulate the mind very, very well. Um, I like the fact that he made him go into this grave and it says Anthony Stark on it, and then out of nowhere you see this hand come out and it was actually a decrepit version of Iron Man, and he was, Peter was just, he was shocked, he was completely horrified at what was going on. He had him fight against himself, beat himself up. He had him go into this massive roller coaster ride. It was a really, really good psychedelic thing that he did, and that's Mysterio. And I felt that that was a great service to Mysterio's character, because that's what he does. He puts him in a situation where it's so jarring to everything, and his vertigo kicks in, and it's like, wow, it's all messed up. So he attacks the Shield headquarters, the outpost Shield headquarters that Nick Fury's at, and causes this massive fight between him and Spider-Man again. And he basically, quote unquote, kills Spider-Man, but he doesn't kill him because he thinks that he's dead, but he's not dead. So Mysterio sends all of the drones that he got from Tony Stark. He got from Stark Enterprises. He takes those technologies and he tries to kill everybody that Spider-Man knows, that Peter knows. So Peter puts on he talks to Happy, and he tells Happy that that he misses Tony. He wishes Tony was here, and he says that, well, dude, he goes, I've been a friend of his since we were young, and you remind me so much of him. So, and that's when Peter gets his renew you, and he goes back to the drawing board and creates a whole new suit with a whole new spider tech. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but again, he shouldn't be using Tony Stark's stuff. He should be doing it himself. He is doing it himself, but he's using Tony's stuff to create it. Now, it is the situation that's going on, and it serves the purpose of Spider-Man's character for this universe, that he is Tony Stark's sidekick. He's not the independent superhero that we all know. He is, and everyone thinks that he is part of the Avengers, but that's not been his character for the first 40 years that he's been around. He only joined the Avengers like maybe 15 years ago at most. So he hasn't been completely part of the Avengers for a very long time. He's always been independent. And that's what I like about his character. His character is not dependent on anybody else. He does it himself, and that's what makes him an adult, and I like that about him. He doesn't try to throw his responsibilities on anybody else. He handles it himself. And I like how they did that in this version, because he does handle the whole situation with Quentin Beck himself. And he says, no, I'm the one that did this. I have to take care of it. It is my responsibility because I did this. And I go, that's Spider-Man. That's what he does. So we get this huge web swinging situation of him web swinging through the city to try to stop these drones. And he finally confronts Quentin Beck, and Quentin again uses holographic projections, and Peter says, I have to trust my senses, because he knows what room he is. He can't be fooled by these holographic projections. So in the middle of everything, he did exactly what Spider-Man would do. He flipped and flopped and twisted and contorted his way through the whole situation, took out all the drones, and then took on Quentin Beck. And when he finally took down Quentin Beck, Quentin Beck told him that, he says that, why'd you do this? They had this emotional scene, and then out of nowhere, his spider sense kicked in, and he grabbed the midair, and it shows that what he was talking to was a holographic projection, and the real Quentin Beck was there, and a scuffle happened in the middle of the whole situation, and Quentin Beck died. Yes. Mysterio is dead. Now, I don't know if he's dead, or this was all this one gigantic thing. I don't know. But right now, he's dead, because they talked about it in the post-credit scene that Quentin Beck is dead. So I'll talk about that at the very end of this. So Peter, they get back home and everything is all hunky dory, and then Peter talks to Happy and Aunt May and says, "Are you two dating?" And then they kind of look at each other like they're kids and just go, "Yeah, well," and they start making excuses. I'm sitting there going, "Dude, what the heck is going on here?" So it's one of those whatever. I mean, if that's the level of comedy that you want when you have adults acting like kids, perfectly fine. Okay, whatever. I mean, they should be adult about it. Like, yeah, sorry we didn't tell you. I mean, I thought that maybe you wouldn't mind. That'd be pretty cool. Happy should be like, yeah, I didn't think you would have mind. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, sorry. And he goes, well, I mean, at least you're not treating her right, wrong. I'm sorry, you're not treating her wrong, so it's fine. He's kind of like eyeballing him a little bit. He's like, he puts his hands up in the air. Now, one of the things that I felt that was very, very, very cringeworthy was Peter was web swinging through the city and he meets up with Michelle and he takes her web swinging. And to me, it felt very cringy. It didn't feel natural. It felt very clumsy, into my personal opinion. And I'm not knocking on Zendaya. I'm not knocking on Tom Holland. I'm not knocking on their relationship in the on the screen or off the screen. I'm not knocking that. What I'm saying is the scene itself felt very clunky and it felt pretty cringe. It didn't feel like natural. It felt like you just had her latch onto him and screaming in his ear. And I'm like, shouldn't she be? I mean, Peter's not going to be very irresponsible about it. I mean, he has a person with him. He should just swing and have fun with it. And she should be like, whoa, this is so fun. Like she should be smiling and just looking at the world how he sees it, and that'll be pretty fun and cool. But no, she's sitting there going, oh, like she's screaming her head off and everything. And I'm like, wow, dude. Okay, that's pretty cringe. Um, um, then they kind of seal their romance and everything else, and then we get the end scenes. Now I'm not gonna, I will talk about the post credit scenes in just a little bit, but all, like I said, all in all, it is a good movie. To me, it is better than It is not better than Homecoming. Homecoming was better because the villain was solid. Mysterio is solid, but they floundered him at the very end. They kind of wasted him a little bit. Like they should have pulled the whole, they should have pulled what Mysterio would do. Yes, he did do a holographic projection to fool Peter, and then he was there. What they could have done was this whole thing was all a holographic projection. He didn't kill Quentin Beck. Quentin Beck is still alive. He's been alive this whole time. He was gone. This was all one gigantic stunt by him, and the person that he killed was not Quentin Beck. It was not Quentin Beck. I'd have been like, wow. So Peter's like, holy crap. Even though he used his spider sense, and they tried to call his spider sense in his movie his Peter's tingle, and I'm like, no, it's spider sense. He used his spider sense, bypassed the whole hologram projection, but he didn't even realize that this whole thing was a holographic projection. This was all one gigantic level of holographics, and Mysterio was gone. He's been gone. He left the moment Peter took out all the drones. He was like, nope, and he left. And he left something holographic for Peter to take on, and that'd been perfectly cool. But to rate this movie, to me, like I said, this movie is a 7. This is a 7. Homecoming to me was a 7.5. I just did not like the introduction and how they did the story of Peter Parker. I kind of wish they gave us a little bit more with his Uncle Ben. And what really dropped it down more to me, I would have rated this equal with Homecoming with a 7.5 if, and that's the word here, if they made more references to his Uncle Ben, like the differences of why he latched on more to Tony Stark should have been about his Uncle Ben, and they should have showed a little bit more about his Uncle Ben and how much Uncle Ben was close to him, instead of making it all about Tony Stark. Because a lot of people don't know that the director even I don't know if he stated it in a joke or serious, but he also stated that In this universe, to Peter Parker, Tony Stark is his Uncle Ben. And I went, no, no, you shouldn't do that. That's not right. That's not cool. That's a huge disservice to the character. That's a huge disservice to Uncle Ben and to the legacy of what who Spider-Man is. If people, here's the concept. If they did any levels of changes to the Miles Morales character, even though how fresh he's been around, he has not been around as long as Peter Parker. If they did any levels of changes, and let's say he's not in Spanish Harlem, let's say he's in the uptown section of New York, he's in the rich section of New York, and they completely change his whole outlook of everything, you know there's going to be a level of outrage, because that's not who he is. His character is in the poorest section of Harlem, and he is intelligent. Not as intelligent as Peter, but he is intelligent, and he's in a poor section of town. Peter's in Queens. And he's a whiz kid. He's a wonder kid. He's a wonder bread kid. And they don't emphasize that. They don't emphasize of how intelligent Peter Parker is in Homecoming. They don't. They can say, oh yeah, well, he's in chemistry. So what? There are kids in chemistry. There's other kids in chemistry. His friend is in chemistry. So what? That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. They never showed how intelligent Peter is. Like, he should get the work done. He should do it. He should be like, he should be doing all the chemical compounds himself, and Ned should be sitting back going, holy crap. Like, he should be getting everything done because he's so bored and everything, and he should be having fun with it. That shows how intelligent he is. But they don't do that. They have him just sit back and just look like he's bored, and he's working with his friends and everything. And I'm like, that makes no sense, because Peter should be able to do this all himself. And that shows how intelligent he is. It's not a knock, and it's not a disrespect to the other kids. It just shows how intelligent he is. He's honestly should not be at this school. He should be at an MIT, or he should be at a more advanced set of classes or an advanced school. That's not showing disrespect to anybody. It just shows that you're putting Peter Parker in the same bubble as everybody else, but he's brilliant. He's supposed to be brilliant. If Tony Stark didn't think he was brilliant, then he wouldn't mess with him. He wouldn't talk to him. He wouldn't give him any of this technology. Just because he has superpowers doesn't mean anything. He could be talking to Ned. Ned hacked into his freaking technology like it was nothing. So that, to me, it makes no sense. But to me, I do feel that Quentin Beck is a great villain. They did a really great job with him. Not in the same vein as actually almost in the same vein as Michael Keaton's Vulture. I think that Michael Keaton's Vulture is very solid. He's very understandable. You could relate with him. You can relate that somebody, a bigger boot steps on you as you're trying to make something better for yourself, and somebody just takes it from under you. From Quentin Beck's perspective, it's someone takes credit for your work and completely ices you out on it. So you can't get any royalties or any levels of pay out of it. So your hard work is makes someone else rich. Anybody can feel for that. And that's how I like his character. To me, I think that the whole Spider-Man situation is I'm not going to say piss poor. I think that they did a level of disservice to the character. I know they're trying to bring something rich and new to the character, but they took out certain elements that makes the character a great legacy character. However, it is still a good movie. I do recommend people to go watch it. If you are a huge Spider-Man fan like myself, you might find certain things a little distasteful. But if you don't care and you just want to see Spider-Man, then this movie's going to be right up your alley. To me, I am a huge Spider-Man fan. I love Spider-Man. He is one of the core reasons why I love comic books next to Batman. And I feel that he did a huge disservice. They did some disservice. No, I'm sorry, huge disservice. They did some disservices to the character, to the mythos, to the legacy of the character, just to pad the fact that they think that the regular audience just doesn't care about the character. And they don't. They generally do not care. They just want to be entertained. They want to laugh. They want to put their $15, $20 into a bucket and eat popcorn and shove it down their throats and laugh with their kids for about 2 hours and then go home to their miserable lives. That's how they view the fans, and that's how the fans view these comic book movies. They view these comic book movies as lesser than thou type of situations, and they don't put a lot of emphasis on it, and they just say it's just a movie. Well, if it's just a movie, then honestly, you don't care. And I do care, and I do want to see these movies done a little bit better. But the one caveat, the one thing that they did I felt was very well done is they literally brought in J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. They brought him in. They made him in a vein like Alex Jones or Rush Limbaugh of the MCU. He's more of a internet personality than how they did him before as a radio personality or as a newspaper personality. They're kind of getting rid of the newspaper route. They're gonna probably go more with internet, which is fine. That's fine. They're putting Jay Jonah in the more vein as he used to be, very scrupulous, and he's willing to step over Peter Parker and Spider-Man's character just to serve a narrative. And they announced that he has this new footage that shows this. It shows something that Quentin Beck left before he passed away, and it has Spider-Man with the glasses on, and he's talking about that he doesn't care. He's a superhero. He's gonna lord it over everybody, and he's the one that was responsible for it. And he killed Mysterio as Mysterio was trying to stop him, which is exactly what I knew that Quentin Beck was gonna do. Which I felt that should have been the thing that reason why Quentin Beck was never there. He should never have been there. He should have died. He should not have died. All of this was orchestrated by Spider-Man to try to be this great hero, and he's the one that caused all these damages and used technologies and used Stark technology to get away with it. And in his final scenes, it shows Quentin Beck completely outing Peter Parker as Spider-Man. So now the world knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, and I feel that it was too early for this, but it now makes sense why you made this version of Peter so flamboyantly. And I'm not saying in a gay way. He's just flamboyant about his powers. He's flagrating them. He doesn't understand the levels of responsibility. He's not in tune. And also, if you really think about it, and this is my headcanon. This is how I view what they're trying to do. This is their way to introducing Miles Morales. And they're gonna do it where Peter's already a Spider-Man. Everybody knows he's Spider-Man. It's gonna be the norm, and he's gonna try to mix and mingle this whole situation with him being Peter Parker, his school life, his superhero life, and his now famous life. And they're gonna introduce Miles Morales, and he's gonna probably be around the same age as him. Because remember, in Homecoming, we met Donald Glover's character, who's supposed to be Miles' uncle, and he says that his kid is like about 5 years younger. He's a young kid right now, so he's like he's probably like, I would say he's most likely about 8 or 9 years old by this time, but by Homecoming. So we're gonna get him 5 years later, and he's probably gonna be around the same age as Peter. So we're gonna probably get Peter 17, and you're gonna Miles Morales at 16 years old, and now we're gonna have two Spider-Men. I already foresee this, and that's how I see they're gonna do it. They want to get Peter out there, and then now they want to get a new Spider-Man that the new diverse Spider-Man out there. When there's been three different versions of Spider people that's been out there far longer than Miles Morales. But hey, that's okay. Everyone likes Miles Morales' character because he's a black Puerto Rican from Spanish Harlem. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. But let's just call it as it is. Now there's a second post-credit scene where it talks about Nick Fury, and you're gonna find out the Nick Fury that they've been dealing with this whole time, the one that got a one-upped on by Quentin Beck, the one that basically got almost killed by Quentin Beck, the one that was yelling at Peter Parker about ghosting him and this and that, and yelling and this and that. And I'm like, that has never been Nick Fury's style. Nick Fury doesn't yell like that. He doesn't do stuff like that. He's very cold, he's very silent, and he's very he has a stare that can penetrate he has a stare that can penetrate metal. So it's not like him to be like that in the movie. So I felt there was something up, and we come to find out that is Talos. And if you don't remember Talos is the guy that we met in Captain Marvel. And he's been on Earth this whole time after Stark's death to oversee what's going on because guess what? Nick Fury's in space with the other Skrulls that went off with Captain Marvel, and they're creating Sword. They're creating Sword. They're creating an intergalactic shield that's going to watch for intergalactic threats. That's exactly what they're doing. And that's how I see they're going to go from this point forward. I think they are going to go with Sword. They're going to go with Sword instead of Shield, and we're going to have to see what they do with other things. But it seems like they're going to concentrate more on intergalactic threats than they're going to worry about planetary threats. And I have a feeling that planetary threats are going to be the lesser, because they feel that the intergalactic threats, they have a wide variety to do and much more to do. And also they have now free reign for Fantastic Four. They have a free reign with X-Men. They have a free reign with all the Fantastic Four stuff they can do. The Marvel Cosmic Universe. They have so many things to do. So like I said, it's a 7 to me. I think that Homecoming is just a little bit better. Just on the storyline portion. I don't want to make this too long, but yeah, it's not a bad movie. I do recommend people to watch it. It is a good Spider-Man movie, and if you don't go into this like myself, I went into this seeing if they were going to challenge the hero, and they did do it in a way, but they still kept him a lot of teenage angst instead of growing him up more and having him realize about his powers and realizing that he has all these powers, he needs to have responsibility for it, or he's going to fall into the same trap that Tony Stark did. And Tony Stark was very arrogant, and he caused a lot of problems. He did cause a lot of problems. He caused Ultron. He caused Thanos to come to Earth. He caused Civil War. He caused a lot of things that happened throughout the MCU, and he had to fix them. So, but that's my video. I hope you guys enjoy. Spider-Man Far From Home. It's not a bad movie. It is actually a good, solid movie. It's a good movie. I'm not going to say solid. It's a good movie that gets you entertained, that keeps you laughing. I did laugh at a few points, but the whole of the movie, there are some problems I have with it, but I do recommend to go see it. Go see it, guys. It's a good movie. You guys have a great day. Dark Side Elite, like, comment, share, subscribe down below. Let's talk about it. It is not a bad movie. I will tell you my views. I will be very impartial on it. I won't have any levels of bias. Okay? Guys, have a good day.